The story begins with a sad young man telling his friend that his mom kicked him out of the house. He is 30 years old, has no job, and feels lost about what to do next. His friend listens quietly while smoking a cigarette. After a pause, she suddenly calls him Kishake and suggests something shocking. They should get married. Keisha's eyes go wide, completely surprised. But she stays calm and explains that they can get married and then divorce soon after. Still confused, Keisha asks why she would even suggest that. She explains that her family is rich and traditional. Now that she's 30, her parents are pressuring her to settle down. If they marry, her parents will be satisfied, and later she'll get her revenge by divorcing him. Keisha can't understand why she would choose him of all people. He tells her it's not a good idea. To him, marriage should be with a soulmate, and you never know when you'll meet that person. She laughs it off, saying love doesn't matter to her. She only needs the title of being married. For her, this is the perfect deal for both of them. After thinking about it for a while, Keisha starts to see her point. She even offers a solution to his problem. He can live with her while looking for a job. She suggests they stay married for just 100 days. Keisha makes a small joke to ease the tension, but still hesitates. When she brings it up again, he finally agrees. It turns out Rue and Keisha have known each other since high school and stayed friends after university. He had only ever seen her as a friend, until now, when he suddenly finds himself married to her. After the wedding, Keisha suggests taking a few pictures, but Rue rushes through it. While he looks at the photos in disbelief, she hands him the marriage papers to fill out, making their union official. At the same time, she casually gives him divorce papers too, asking him to fill them out in advance. Overwhelmed, Keisha asks if he can stay at her place until he finds a job. Rue agrees and tells him not to worry. Later that day, she invites him to dinner. He's surprised. He had almost forgotten they're technically married now. But when she serves the meal, it turns out to be supplements. Keisha protests that pills aren't real food, but Rue eats them without care. He offers to buy food from a store, but she refuses. Finishes quickly and heads to bed, telling him to sleep on the sofa. The next morning, Rue wakes Keisha gently and serves him supplements for breakfast. He eats them without complaining. Before leaving for the day, she explains that she already bought groceries and their cleaning robot, Tomago, takes care of the housework. When she returns, she gives him money for the laundry and reminds him to turn on the vent before showering. All of this makes Keisha feel surprised. It doesn't feel like they're just temporary partners waiting for a divorce. Watching the robot clean, he begins to feel like a burden. Looking at the marriage papers still on the table, he wonders if Rue might be having second thoughts. The next morning, Keisha wakes up early to make himself a lunchbox for his job interview. He also does a few chores before trying to wake Rue. When she doesn't respond, he nervously opens her door and finds her lying upside down on the bed, unmoving. Panicked, he rushes to her side and shakes her gently until she wakes. Realizing she has a fever, he tells her to rest and promises to handle the food. Rue protests that she can't sleep on an empty stomach, but he reminds her that breakfast is already ready. He insists on taking care of her this time. Though surprised by his concern, she agrees. He gives her a towel for the fever and some water before checking her temperature again. Rui's fever is high, 38.9 degrees Celsius. Keisha urges her to rest, assuring her that he'll handle everything. He mentions the bento he made earlier and offers to adjust it to her taste. She agrees with a smile, and he leaves the room, reminding her again to rest. As he walks away, Rui wonders how she even got sick when she spends so much time working with her father. Sharing her home with someone else feels strange. A little later, Keisha returns and wakes her gently. Proudly, he tells her he made her favorite tomato porridge. Hungry, Rui agrees to eat, and to her surprise, the food is delicious. She compliments him, and Keisha modestly says he's gotten good at housework. He offers to help more around the house, saying she's been doing everything alone. If she doesn't want his help, that's fine, but he'd actually enjoy it since he's usually alone. Breaking the silence, Rui admits that his presence is comforting. She agrees to let him help, making Keisha blush. He even surprises her by serving miso soup too, before reminding her to rest. While she sleeps, he busies himself with chores. Time slips away, and when he realizes, he quickly finishes up and tells her to keep resting before he heads to work. As he leaves, Rui watches him with a small smile. The next morning, Rui's fever has gone down. Over breakfast, they share a calm, pleasant moment. After her shower, she thanks him sincerely for taking care of her. When she tries to light a cigarette, Keisha snatches it away, reminding her she just recovered. Then, hesitantly, he asks why the marriage papers still haven't been submitted. Rui explains that she wanted to give him a chance to back out if he changed his mind. She asks if he really wants to live with her. He replies that since he's the one gaining the most, he should be asking her that. Rue smiles, admitting living with him hasn't been as hard as she expected. When she asks about his job interview, he admits he was late and it didn't go well. Seeing her eat breakfast lifts his mood, and he decides he wants to be more useful than Tamago, the cleaning robot. Ru quickly reminds him that Tamago is both helpful and adorable, so he better not mess with it. With new determination, they finally agree to submit the marriage papers. Though the marriage is temporary, for now they are a real couple. On their way to file the papers, Keisha thinks these 100 days will be unlike anything they've ever experienced as friends. The next day, during lunch at work, Rui opens her lunchbox and is surprised at how beautifully decorated it is. Keisha's cooking skills are improving fast. Just as she's about to eat, her junior, Hayakawa Kurumi, greets her and congratulates her for closing a tough client deal. Then she teases Rui about being so cool and competitive. Her eyes fall on Rui's lunch, and she asks about the sudden change. Calmly, Rui says her husband made it. Kurumi freezes, shocked. She even questions it since Rui isn't wearing a wedding ring. Embarrassed, Rui looks at her bare hand, realizing she forgot something important. Kurumi jokes that maybe Rui is just pretending to avoid the embarrassment of a quick divorce. Later at home, Rui brings up the need to buy rings. Keisha looks confused, so she explains that if they want others to believe their marriage, rings are necessary. Keisha hesitates, saying he doesn't have the money for that. Rui suggests buying cheap ones at a store, but Keisha protests. Wedding rings should be meaningful, engraved, and special. Keisha insists they should wait until he saves up for proper rings, but Rui reminds him this is only a 100-day arrangement. Spending a lot of money would be pointless, especially since he should save for his own place. Eventually, he gives in and agrees to check out the general store with her. At the store, Rui quickly picks the first ring she tries on, but Keisha suggests they choose something a little nicer. He looks through the cheaper options while Rui insists that a plain one is fine. He tries suggesting rings with flowers or hearts, but she rejects them, saying they don't suit him. She adds that a simple ring will look good on both of them. Touched by her willingness to make their fake marriage look convincing, Keisha offers to pay for the rings. Rui accepts and walks toward the cosmetics section, leaving him to quietly watch her go. As he waits, he notices another couple happily choosing rings together. For a moment, he wishes he could give a beautiful ring to someone special, but then reminds himself that as long as Rui is fine, that's enough. Meanwhile, Rui browses supplements but dismisses most of them. She thinks buying cheap rings was the most practical choice. Glancing at Keisha, she notices him nervously tugging at his clothes, a habit he has whenever something is on his mind. She doesn't say anything right away. Later, before they leave, Rui stops him and gently points out his nervous habit, asking what's wrong. She tells him she's tired of seeing him always put others before himself and asks him to share his true feelings with her, since she's his wife. Keisha is silent at first, then asks her to follow him. Without hesitation, she agrees. They walk to a bridge, where he opens up about his dream of a romantic proposal. Even if the rings aren't expensive, he wants the memory to be real and meaningful. One day, Rui might have to tell the story, and it would be better if it was genuine. Rui nods and asks how she can help. Smiling, Keisha sets the scene, imagining a sky full of stars. Then, he kneels down and proposes properly. Rui, staying cool as always, replies with a flat yes, reminding him they're already married. Still, they exchange rings. Keisha takes his time, cherishing the moment, then asks Rui to do the same. She slips the ring on his finger, though it's a little tight. Seeing how happy he looks, she asks why he cares so much about making the moment romantic. He explains that his grandmother often told him sweet stories about her life with his grandfather. When Rui asks about her health, he says he's prepared for whatever happens. He also mentions he's found a promising part-time job and hopes it will turn into full-time. Realizing how much this moment means to him, Rui feels embarrassed for not putting more effort into it. But Keisha gently reassures her, thanking her for making his wish come true. Curious now, Rui asks what else couples usually do. Keisha mentions hand-holding, and before he can finish, she immediately agrees to try it. He blushes, saying it isn't necessary, but she insists. It's her turn to make him happy. As they walk side by side, holding hands, Keisha feels his chest flutter with warmth. It's new, sweet, and sincere. The next day at lunch, Rui opens her bento box and sees another beautifully prepared meal. Every detail shows Keisha's growing care for her. Just then, Kurumi arrives to talk about work, but her eyes quickly notice the ring on Rui's finger. Shocked and emotional, Kurumi vows to find out who Rui's husband really is. She starts asking questions, clearly doubting Rui is truly married. Before Rui can answer, her phone rings. It's her mother. Rui steps aside to take the call and returns looking upset. That evening, when Rui gets home, Keisha greets her warmly. Rui immediately tells him the urgent news. Her parents are coming to visit. It's time, she says, for us to act like a real married couple. The next day, after work, Keisha realizes it's late and rushes home to make dinner for Rui. When he walks in, Rui greets him with a bright smile and asks playfully, "Would you like dinner first or a bath?" Surprised by her cheerful mood, Keisha asks what's going on. Rui reminds him that they need to practice being a loving couple. At first, Keisha thinks she's joking, but Rui seriously tells him her parents will arrive soon. Keisha hesitates. He says he can't fake being in love when they're not. Rui takes his hand, pulls him into her room, and sits him on the bed. She hands him her tablet, explaining that she already prepared a list of cute things couples do to convince her parents. When Keisha sees the word kiss on the list, he panics. "I can't fake something like that," he says. "Isn't there something easier?" Curious, he asks where she got the list. Rui answers blankly, "From shoujo manga." They decide to try the first thing on the list, a lap pillow. Rui sits down and tells Keisha to rest his head on her lap. But when she sees how uncomfortable he looks, she changes her mind and says he can just lie next to her. Rui gently places his head on her arm and tells him she'll go first if he's too nervous. But Keisha panics again and pushes her away. Thinking fast, Rui grabs a pillow and places it between them. She says they must look like a real couple because her parents might check on them. Keisha frowns, confused by Rui's words. She explains that she's willing to do things to make their act believable. Keisha sighs and covers his face with his hands, feeling overwhelmed. Rui quickly adds another pillow and says, "Fine, then no." She hopes it makes him more comfortable. Then she looks at him and asks, "Wouldn't it be easier if we just tried at least once?" Keisha refuses. "Why do your parents expect so much? I can't even kiss you, so I definitely can't go further than that." Rui leans closer, annoyed. "Stop saying you can't all the time," she tells him. "You only feel awkward because you keep convincing yourself you can't. Just try. You might surprise yourself." Frustrated, Keisha suddenly starts crying. Rui softens and tries to comfort him. He explains that while he relies on her, he feels useless because he can't give her anything in return. "All I do is cause trouble for you," he says sadly. Rui gently reminds him, "If you truly can't do anything, then why did you hold my hand that time? I could feel your feelings for me in that moment." Her words surprise Keisha. It's the first time anyone has noticed Keisha's efforts. He remembers how easily Rui accepted his hand before. Wanting to show his feelings, Keisha takes a step forward. He gently holds Rui's hand and asks if she'd like to cook together. They both put on aprons. Cooking wasn't on Rui's list of romantic things, but Keisha feels it's a good start. Rui hesitates, but agrees. Keisha begins teaching her how to make curry. Rui suggests just using the microwave, but Keisha shakes his head and asks her to peel the potatoes with a knife. She struggles, so he decides to peel them himself and gives her the peeled ones to cut. Rui strikes the potato in one strong motion, but Keisha quickly warns her to use both hands. It's dangerous. He gently shows her how to chop properly, guiding her hands. Rui notices how close he is and realizes that despite what he said earlier, he can come closer. Curious, she asks him to keep helping. She asks again for his guidance, and this time, she truly appreciates the effort he's putting in. But when she points this out, Keisha blushes, flustered, and hurries back to peeling the rest himself. As he focuses, Rui quietly watches him. She thinks to herself that he actually looks really cool, and says it aloud. This makes Keisha blush even more. Unsure if Rui is serious or just joking, he nervously peels faster. After finishing the vegetables, Rui notices he's still red in the face and gently tells him to relax and focus on cooking. They move on to frying the meat. Rui smiles and says cooking together is fun. Keisha can hardly believe she said that, but reminds her to keep an eye on the meat as they add the vegetables. Once it's simmering, Keisha turns serious. He apologizes for not being able to act like a perfect couple. He says all he really wants is to make her happy, and cooking is the one way he knows how to show love. Rui admits that it's not a bad idea. Surprised, Keisha looks at her. She adds that she doesn't want to make him cry again, so she's fine with doing things this way. Both of them smile and agree that cooking together was a good choice. As Keisha sets out the cutlery, Rui asks if this is what being lovey-dovey is supposed to feel like. Nervous, Keisha steps back a little. Rui gently tells him not to worry. She's happy with the way things are. At the table, Rui thanks him for the meal. This time, the curry feels special to Keisha because they made it together. But when he asks how it tastes, Rui replies coldly, "It's good." He can't stop eating though, saying he loves it. Rui reminds him that honest answers can sting, then thinks to herself that she's just being who she is. She admits acting overly romantic was silly. If her parents ask questions, they'll just tell them, "This is how we are." Before ending the talk, she reminds him not to be too self-conscious. The next night, as Keisha serves dinner, he mentions her parents are coming tomorrow. Rui calmly reminds him they agreed to just be themselves, but he still worries about acting naturally in front of them. When Rui notices he isn't eating, she finds out there's only enough food left for one person. She offers to share hers and adds that the food tastes even better than yesterday. Without warning, she feeds Keisha a bite from her bowl. As he eats, she giggles and says feeding him was on her list too. She teases him, saying he's actually good at being romantic, when he doesn't realize it. Embarrassed, Keisha blushes and gets a little annoyed, realizing Rui secretly kept working through her list. Rui just smiles, while Keisha promises that from now on they'll stay on the same page. Suddenly, Rui's phone rings. It's her mom. Keisha freezes, thinking her parents might be coming early, but after the call, Rui calmly explains they're not coming after all. Her dad got busy with work. They both breathe a sigh of relief, but when Rui quietly stands up and tells him to finish the rest of the food, Keisha feels better while Rui, deep down, looks a little disappointed. Without saying a word, Rui steps out onto the balcony and lights a cigarette. Keisha follows, asking what's wrong. The next morning, Rui comes out of her room already dressed for work. Keisha greets her with a freshly made breakfast. She eats quickly without a word, then heads out. Just as he tries to wish her a good day, she shuts the door behind her, leaving him worried. Even though Rui claims she doesn't care about her parents, her sadness over them not visiting tells a different story. Keisha starts overthinking again, but this time he decides he should ask Rui directly instead of keeping it inside. He waits patiently all day for the right moment. As night falls and rain begins to pour, he stares out the window, wondering if Rui remembered to bring an umbrella. At the office, Kurumi notices Rui looking upset and assumes she had a fight with her husband. She tries to cheer Rui up, but Rui quietly leaves the building and walks into the rain. Kurumi rushes after her, offering an umbrella. Meanwhile, Keisha sees Rui walking home, drenched, holding an unused umbrella in her hand. Concerned, he gently tells her she'll catch a cold if she stays wet. Kurumi interrupts, and Keisha, confused, mistakes her for Rui's mother. She quickly denies it, and although he laughs at the mistake, Kurumi starts to introduce herself. Before she can finish, Rui speaks up, introducing Keisha as her husband. Since it's still raining, Keisha excuses them politely, and he and Rui walk off together. Kurumi smiles as she watches them leave. Noticing Rui's quiet mood, Keisha tries to lighten the atmosphere. He offers her another umbrella in case she doesn't want to share. Rui surprises him by saying she doesn't mind. She quietly apologizes for how she's been acting and admits something is bothering her, though she isn't sure what. Keisha guesses it's about her parents canceling their visit at the last minute. Rui admits he's probably right. She says she should feel relieved, but instead she feels unsettled. She explains that her mother hurt her in many ways. Even though she wants to move on, she can't forgive. On the outside, people think she comes from a good family, but the truth is very different. Her parents once tried to divorce, but didn't go through with it. Her mother always said a husband must provide while the wife stays home, and she pressured Rui into marriage even after she moved out. As Rui dries her face with a towel, she confesses she isn't used to this kind of life. Hearing this, Keisha quietly hugs her. Rui, surprised, asks why. He blushes and stammers, saying he didn't know what else to do to comfort her, especially with her standing there soaked. Rui stares at him for a moment, then hugs him back, saying how warm it feels. Both share what the closeness means to them. For Rui, it's calming. For Keisha, it leaves him blushing furiously. Then Rui suddenly asks if she should sleep next to him tonight, leaving him frozen. When they get home, bedtime comes. Rui tells him to hurry up and get into the room. Embarrassed, he apologizes, saying this wasn't on their list. Rui, annoyed, tells him to just get in. He lies down on the very edge of the bed with his back to her. Rui tries to shift closer, but when she can't, she sighs and sits at the far corner. Worried he upset her, Keisha sits up. Rui then explains all she wanted was to cuddle. She even shows him a manga page of the exact pose she had in mind. When he doesn't answer, she playfully pushes him until they end up in the cuddling position. Keisha finally relaxes, realizing all Rui really wants is comfort and affection. As they lie together, Rui opens up. She shares how her parents often missed important moments in her life because of her father's job, which made her question her own worth. Keisha gently runs his fingers through her hair and tells her what she's feeling is loneliness, and that it's okay not to be okay. She doesn't have to go through it alone. Rui grips his hand tightly as he teases her, saying she gets angry easily and acts like a robot that downloaded emotions without fully understanding them. That's when Rui starts to realize what loneliness really means. Keisha adds that even if she likes being alone sometimes, it's normal to need someone. Her feelings are real. Slowly, Rui drifts to sleep while he comforts her, wondering how this could still be called acting. Later that night, Rui kicks Keisha off the bed in her sleep. He wakes up rubbing his head, but when he sees her resting peacefully, he smiles. He leans in, looks at her for a moment, then quietly leaves the room to make breakfast. The next morning, Rui joins him at the table. Keisha greets her with another warm meal. She casually mentions she wants to buy an electric blanket to stay warm. Keisha suddenly pauses. He wonders if Rui only cuddled with him for warmth, not because of feelings. While eating, Kush tells her he'll be home late and dinner will be delayed. Before leaving, he asks honestly if she really wants him to stay in the apartment. Rui answers coldly, saying her parents might still visit. He nods, hiding his emotions. Looking at Rui makes Keisha blush, and he quickly heads out for work. She quietly shuts the door and lights a cigarette. It's been a long time since she was truly alone. On the balcony, she smokes and thinks to herself that she's used to being alone. In the elevator, Kush keeps thinking about Rui, but his thoughts stop when the elevator reaches Kamada-san's floor. He rings the bell, and Kamada opens the door, apologizing for his casual clothes. Keisha is surprised at how neat and shiny his apartment is. He compliments him, and Kamada thanks him, especially for liking his cooking. Kamada shows his new business cards, and Keisha is surprised to learn he's also a lawyer. Kamada offers to help if he ever needs legal advice. They share a quiet moment until Kamada asks him to call him by his first name. When Keisha agrees, Itsuki-san heads for a shower, excited about the meal. Keisha looks at his card and notices his job is similar to Rui's. A month passes since Rui and Keisha's marriage. To celebrate, he plans a special dinner, decorates the room, and even prepares a gift. But later he worries he might have overdone it, so he tones it down. That evening, Rui sees the table set and looks confused. Keisha reminds her it's their 1-month anniversary, their month-iversary. Even if their marriage is pretend, he says they should enjoy these moments. But Rui goes silent. She doesn't see why it matters. To her, it proves nothing. Keisha tries to explain, but struggles. Finally, he raises his voice, saying that even 1 month together means something to him. To move past the tension, he tells her to just eat. They eat quietly, but Rui keeps asking why the day is so important. Flustered, Keisha avoids her questions and fidgets. He finally says she'll never understand how he feels. Rui falls silent. Just as she's about to reply, he gets up and leaves for work. Rui tries to stop him, but he says nothing and walks out. On his way, he feels guilty for leaving the table messy. Still, he reminds himself their marriage is fake, so maybe it doesn't matter. To clear his head, he goes to Itsuki-san's apartment. Itsuki greets him warmly and quickly notices something's wrong. Inside, Keisha admits he argued with his wife. Itsuki explains gently that what they had was a fight and shares his own view on fights. His words make Keisha pause. He laughs and calls Itsuki smart, while calling himself dumb. To cheer him up, Itsuki says that sharing feelings openly shows their bond. He reminds him it's normal for two people to disagree. Hearing that Rui is still home, Itsuki playfully scolds him, telling him to go back to her. He says it's okay to feel uneasy, but what matters is returning to her. Encouraged, Keisha decides to go home, though he insists on doing the dishes first. Before leaving, he thanks Itsuki for the advice and reminds himself they are equals. On the way back, he thinks about high school days, like when Rui scolded him for forgetting homework or yelled at him for being bad at video games. Keisha remembers when a classmate once said they looked close and warned him people might gossip about them being a couple. Rui was offended but also looked a little unsure. Back then, Keisha had already been teased for spending time with her, and even though he wanted to defend himself, he never had the courage to speak up. Now, in the present, he realizes they were different from the start. He thinks about how he used to stay silent even when he believed in something. But that has changed. Now he finally has the strength to speak out, and that's part of his growth. When he arrives at the building, he's surprised to see Rui waiting there. He asks what she's doing, and she says she came to yell at him, since they are in the middle of a fight after all. Keisha quickly apologizes, admitting he ran away because he lacked the confidence to explain his feelings. He says her words hurt him, but he's sorry for how he reacted. Rui replies that she was actually glad he finally talked back to her. Normally, he's too nervous to stand up to her, but this time was different, and it made her happy. Still, she scolds him for running away and leaving her lonely. She admits she was worried that if things stayed like that, he might leave her for good. That's why she waited at home. Even though she usually likes being alone, living with him has changed her. She confesses that she sometimes feels lonely and is discovering a new side of herself. At the same time, she feels like she still doesn't fully know him. Keisha apologizes for always staying quiet and realizes they should be making decisions together as equals, because they're partners. Now that things are calmer, Rui asks about the month-iversary. Keisha explains it's like a birthday, but meant to celebrate each month of their marriage. He tells her she doesn't always have to wait for him to say things. Sometimes actions can show more than words. Rui holds out her hand and invites him to walk home with her. He takes it, and she gently squeezes his hand. As they walk, Keisha jokingly teases her about her messy habits. The next day at lunch, Kurumi finds Rui eating quietly. While chatting, she compliments Keisha's cooking and offers to make Rui lunch sometime. Kurumi sits beside her and starts rambling, first about Keisha, then about a new coworker. Rui listens with little interest. When Kurumi finally mentions the coworker's name, it's Kamadasuki. Just then, Itsuki walks up and greets them both. He greets Rui warmly, and it's revealed that they already know each other. They dated back in college. Kurumi is clearly not happy to hear this. During their talk, Itsuki admits he didn't understand Rui well back then. He says he spent all this time trying to become a better man for her and now wants another chance. But Rui turns him down, saying she's married. This shocks both Itsuki and Kurumi, who never expected Rui to say that. Rui stays calm, picks up her phone, and politely excuses herself. After she leaves, Kurumi tells Itsuki to back off since Rui is married now, but Itsuki suggests that maybe divorce would be better for her. Kurumi sits quietly at her desk, watching him. While he happily chats with coworkers, Kurumi glares, thinking about how obsessed he is with Rui. As others praise Itsuki for his charm and personality, Kurumi silently wishes they could see what he's really like. Later, when Itsuki approaches Rui again at the office, Kurumi steps in and warns her that he's trying to win her back. Rui stands firm and reminds him she's married. Itsuki admits he still wants her and even asks her out one more time, but Rui's answer is the same, no. She even says she doesn't remember why she dated him in the first place. Itsuki then shares his side of the story. He explains that he changed himself to be worthy of her, studying abroad and working hard to grow. But Kurumi isn't convinced. She watches him carefully, feeling like something about his words doesn't add up. Kurumi then asks Rui directly why she ever dated him in the first place. Rui answers honestly. She just wanted to experience something different, but in the end, being with him didn't feel right. This makes Kurumi ask another question. Why Rui married Kisha? After a pause, Rui admits the truth. It was to fool her parents. That confession leaves Rui thinking deeply about her choices, especially why she dated Itsuki at all. Kurumi jumps in again, offering her own opinion on why Rui might have chosen a guy like him. But instead of pushing, she waits to hear what Rui will say. Later at lunch, Kurumi still can't stop thinking about her questions. She even wonders if Rui has a thing for loser guys. A strange thought crosses her mind. Maybe she should try being one just to see what it's like. But she quickly dismisses the idea. At that moment, Kisha walks into the same store. Kurumi reacts instantly with dislike. She's never liked how he looks. She considers talking to him, but something holds her back. Soon after, Rui also shows up, and seeing her with Kisha gives Kurumi something new to watch. She quietly eats her noodles, observing them. She notices they bought takeout food and are chatting casually. To her surprise, Rui looks relaxed and comfortable around him. Even more shocking, Rui's expression is soft and peaceful, almost dreamy. Kurumi can't hold it in and calls out to her. She then realizes something else. Rui's appetite has grown since being with Kisha. That thought makes her close her eyes in disbelief. Something about Rui is definitely changing. Suddenly, Rui grabs Kisha's hand and pulls him to a quiet corner, telling him to wait. Once they stop to catch their breath, Kurumi bursts out with her frustration. She admits that seeing Rui's beautiful smile while she was with Kisha made her realize something. She might be falling for him herself. Kisha looks confused, which makes Kurumi tear up, but she quickly hides it and yells at him instead. She reminds him that Rui chose him, and if he wants to stay with her, he needs to work on his low self-esteem because Rui is a strong, independent woman. Kisha explains that their earlier fight started because he wanted to cook dinner and had even brought ingredients. But Rui insisted on giving him a break by ordering takeout instead. As for Rui's smile, he says it was because of those ingredients. She smiled when she saw them. He adds that while Rui is usually serious, sometimes she smiles like that. This annoys Kurumi even more. She lightly punches him, upset that Rui shows a different side of herself around him while he doesn't even seem to notice. She urges him to step up and take charge, especially now that Rui's ex is back in the picture. Kisha repeats her words, trying to show he understands, until Kurumi is satisfied. Then she grabs his hand and drags him back to Rui. When they return, Kurumi apologizes for taking so long, but Rui quickly notices a mark on Kisha's cheek. Kurumi tries to make up a story, but her excuse falls flat, especially since Kisha doesn't back her up. Kurumi tells Rui she believes in Kisha, but also says that if Rui ever wants to end things someday, she'll be there to support her. After that, Kurumi says goodbye and leaves. As she walks away, she quietly sobs. No matter how hard she tries, she still can't fully accept everything. Kisha feels uneasy, but Rui assures him that Kurumi will be fine tomorrow. She then takes his arm and they start walking home together. But Kisha can't stop thinking. Rui's ex has returned. Just then, Itsuki calls out to Rui. When Kisha and Itsuki lock eyes, tension fills the air. Rui tries to keep things normal and starts a conversation, but Kisha senses this is more than coincidence. Rui introduces them to each other, and the shock is so great that Kisha collapses to the ground. Rui notices and begins to wonder if the two already know each other. The next morning, Kurumi is back to her normal self, acting like nothing happened. Meanwhile, Itsuki learns that Kisha works part-time at Rui's house. He finds it strange that Rui introduced both her ex and her husband so casually. Not wanting to waste more time, Rui takes Kisha's hand and says they should go home. She politely says goodbye to Itsuki, and the two walk away together. Even as they leave, Kisha is still shaken. To him, Itsuki seems like the perfect match for Rui, confident, dependable, and everything he feels he is not. Yet, despite that, Rui chose someone like him. Later at home while they're eating, Rui happily praises the fast food, but Kisha is still lost in his doubts. Rui tries to comfort him, reminding him that she broke up with Itsuki only 2 months after they started dating. Still, Kisha keeps comparing himself to Itsuki and feels he isn't good enough. He even wonders out loud why Rui didn't stay with someone like Itsuki instead. Hearing this makes Rui pause and think. Then she gently explains that this marriage, even if pretend, only feels real with him. She says that ever since high school, whenever they were together, people already thought they looked like a couple. She remembers all the rumors back then. But strangely, when she dated Itsuki, no one ever said anything like that. Kisha assumes it might be because she never told anyone, but Rui believes it's because she and Kisha naturally seemed like a real couple. Even so, Kisha can't stop thinking that Rui and Itsuki would have made a better pair. Just then, Rui excitedly discovers that a new version of the game Puppy Cake 6 has been released, and the news quickly brightens their moods. They start a lighthearted argument about whether they should buy the game physically or just download it onto an SD card. After going back and forth, Rui runs out of arguments and agrees with Kisha's idea to buy the physical copy. He gets teary-eyed with happiness. Rui then declares that they'll go buy it after work the next day. The next afternoon at the CD shop, Kisha holds the new game in his hands. They start talking about the fate of one of the characters, Kanoko Cake. Nervous, Kisha rambles his thoughts and worries if Kanoko is still in the game. Rui tells him to just look at the cover. The sudden closeness startles him, and Rui bursts out laughing, especially since he doesn't even like Kanoko. He always chooses matcha, while Rui prefers Kanoko even though Kanoko is harder to use. Kisha feels confused, but Rui gently tells him that she enjoys being with him. He blushes, and Rui assures him this isn't part of any training. She truly means it. Kisha starts to notice how happy Rui is whenever she's with him. Maybe that's why people always thought they were a couple. Still, he doesn't fully understand why she chose him. That thought makes him blush again. But now, it doesn't matter because in the end, she married him. Kisha softly takes Rui's hand and shares all his insecurities, quietly confessing that he loves her. Even though he feels weak, he begs her not to hate him. Rui replies simply that she has no reason to hate him. Before she can say more, Kisha grabs her hand again, excited to go home and play the game. But suddenly Rui stops moving, which confuses him. Looking into his eyes, she says she could never hate him. Not now, not for anyone else. Their eyes meet and Kisha becomes emotional. When she asks what's wrong, he admits how happy it makes him to know she feels that way about him. Rui gently wipes away his tears, and Kisha confesses that before meeting her, he never liked physical contact. They get very close, but then Kisha panics and pulls away because she's too close. He quickly apologizes, but Rui just smiles. She has already accepted Kisha as he is. He thanks her deeply and promises to give his best for her. Rui, smiling warmly, says that even though it's her day off, she wants to make Honduras again since she enjoyed it last time. Kisha is happy and ready to accept Rui's feelings, whatever they may be, as long as he can cherish her. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Itsuki is on the phone with someone who wonders if Rui ended up marrying someone decent. After the call, Itsuki decides to visit Rui's home, convinced she and Kisha aren't meant for each other. He can't bear to see her unhappy and believes their relationship shouldn't be celebrated. Back at home, while cooking, Rui suddenly asks Kisha about the anniversary of their divorce, which completely shocks him. Why would she want to celebrate something like that? The next day during lunch, while chatting, Itsuki casually asks Rui if he can visit her home. Before she can answer, Kurumi quickly jumps in to defend her, politely refusing on her behalf. But to Kurumi's surprise, Rui says she doesn't mind. Itsuki then explains that he already has her parents' permission. He tells her that while he was abroad, her parents supported him during his studies. Even after finishing, he stayed in touch with them. When they learned about Rui's marriage, they asked him to check up on her. Rui listens quietly but is clearly unhappy. That evening when she gets home, she tells Kisha about Itsuki's upcoming visit right at the doorstep. She raises her voice, saying it's time to show the results of their lovey-dovey training. During dinner, Rui explains that her parents doubt their marriage and asked Itsuki to confirm if it's real. If he finds out it's fake, they'll force her to marry him instead. Kisha bangs his head on the table, overwhelmed. The thought crushes him. Not only is Itsuki Rui's ex, but he's also Kisha's client. He wonders how he can act perfectly in front of someone like that, but he knows he must, for Rui's sake. After an emotional breakdown, he agrees to go along with it. On Rui's next day off, everything is beautifully prepared. The table is set. Both Rui and Kisha are dressed up, and Kisha has cooked all the food himself. When the doorbell rings, Rui goes to welcome Itsuki. But before she can even greet him, Kurumi suddenly punches Itsuki. She couldn't relax knowing he would be visiting their home. Kisha panics, worried Kurumi will cause trouble, but Rui calms him down and says she has a plan. Outside, Kurumi and Itsuki argue about who's acting creepier. Kurumi doesn't back down and steps into the house first. Rui gently takes Kisha's hand and squeezes it before welcoming them both inside. The mood feels awkward, but the smell of Kisha's cooking distracts Itsuki, who looks impressed and eager to try it. Rui invites everyone to the table. Kisha asks them to sit, and Rui casually sits on his lap. Kisha feels it's too much and apologizes, saying she's just tired, so she returns to her seat. Both Itsuki and Kurumi then ask to hear the story of how Rui and Kisha ended up together. They share a made-up but consistent version. They were friends since high school, stayed in touch over the years, developed feelings, and eventually, Rui confessed. Kurumi blushes at the sweet story, while Itsuki is left speechless. Kisha, uncomfortable, quietly tells Rui to stop touching him so much, but she warns him to keep a straight face. Itsuki, still shocked, starts to think this all feels too carefully staged. Kurumi insists Rui wouldn't fake something like this, but Rui leans in and whispers in Kisha's ear, "Act natural or he'll tell my parents." Seeing her worried face, Kisha realizes he needs to step up. She's been handling everything so far. Without a word, he picks up a towel and gently wipes Rui's face, surprising her. She hadn't expected him to do anything. Before he can say more, it's time for dessert, and everyone suddenly looks excited. Kisha tells Rui to step back and rest. He'll handle the rest. He knows it's important to keep their guests entertained. Itsuki and Kurumi watch in quiet surprise as Rui grabs Kisha's hand, and together they walk to the kitchen. Rui pretends to search for dessert plates, but Kisha helps her find them. Itsuki thinks Kisha is just being polite, but then his eyes fall on the wedding photos of Rui and Kisha. Before Itsuki can question them, Kisha smoothly comes up with a believable story to cover every doubt. Kurumi, meanwhile, starts to notice Kisha's genuine care for Rui. Rui then pulls Kisha aside and warns him to stop trying too hard. It could make them look suspicious. But Kisha argues that her plan is even riskier. Rui doesn't take that well and suddenly jumps on him in frustration. They begin playfully arguing, and just then Kurumi walks into the room without knocking. She freezes when she sees Rui on top of Kisha, holding a pillow and saying yes. Kurumi is stunned, while Itsuki oddly doesn't react. It's nothing new for him. Kisha, trying to ease the awkwardness, quickly changes the subject to dessert and leaves the room. Kurumi collapses on the sofa, still in shock. Soon everyone asks for coffee, which Rui finds strange since Itsuki normally doesn't drink it. This leads to a small argument between Rui and Kisha, but it ends when he gently tells her to relax while he makes the coffee. Still, Rui joins him in the kitchen to help, and together they prepare it. Once served, Kisha apologizes to Itsuki for their earlier behavior. Rui then tells Itsuki to sit and enjoy his coffee, but he hesitates. Frustrated, she raises her voice, insisting he just enjoy the moment while she takes care of the chores. Finally, Itsuki speaks. He says that at first he thought their relationship was fake, but now he sees they're just expressing their feelings in their own way. And it's actually beautiful. He even says Rui's parents would be happy to know the kind of man she married. Both Rui and Kisha are touched by his words and tear up a little. Kurumi, still being Kurumi, offers her support in case Rui decides to break up with Kisha later. For now, though, Itsuki seems convinced by their story. But deep down, Kisha knows the truth. No matter how real it looks, their marriage is still just an act. As Kurumi leaves, she quietly shows her disappointment that Rui is living with someone else. Kisha, however, feels good that he was able to ease Itsuki's doubts. But Rui is lost in her thoughts, wondering if maybe she's actually fallen for Kisha. At that moment, Itsuki pulls out divorce papers and calmly asks about the real reason behind them. Kisha frowns, reminding Rui that their marriage is still fake and they shouldn't take things too far. But Rui confidently replies that actions like this could convince anyone. Kisha heads to the kitchen to make dinner. From a distance, Rui watches him and remembers how she had first chosen him because he was homeless. But now, something inside her has changed. She recalls Itsuki's words about wanting to take care of Kisha, and the thought makes her annoyed. While chopping vegetables, Kisha's mind drifts to the private moments he and Rui have shared. Their kiss, holding hands, exchanging rings. He keeps reminding himself it's all just an act, a fake marriage to fool others. but the kiss feels like too much. Even though he doesn't like lying, he convinces himself that if it's for Rui, he shouldn't complain. Later that morning, when Rui wakes up, Kisha greets her with a smile and serves her breakfast. As they sit together, he gently brings up the kiss, telling her it made him uncomfortable. He explains that even if they're pretending to be a couple, getting that close just to keep up appearances doesn't sit right with him. He doesn't like tricking people that way. Rui finally realizes that Kisha is upset with her for going too far. At the office, she can't stop thinking about everything that happened. Kurumi notices her distraction and walks over. Rui quietly admits she may have hurt Kisha. Kurumi disagrees, but Rui admits she acted without thinking and pushed him into something he clearly wasn't comfortable with. Kurumi gently encourages her to apologize and be honest about her feelings to avoid misunderstandings. Rui feels even more confused and unsure how to handle her emotions. That evening, she texts Kisha, telling him not to prepare dinner because she'll be home late. Still, she can't focus on work at all. Kurumi notices and kindly offers her a cup of coffee, which Rui appreciates. Meanwhile, Itsuki, as usual, is surrounded by women. They ask him who he has a crush on. One guesses it's Rui, but he quickly denies it, saying it's someone else. Just as he's about to reveal who, Rui suddenly calls him angrily, scaring the women away. Itsuki points out her jealous reaction, thinking it might leave a strong impression on Kisha, especially since he has known Kisha far longer than Rui has. Kurumi, observing, teasingly proposes that Rui marry her after the fake marriage ends, which Rui instantly refuses. On her way home, Rui reflects on why she kissed Kisha. She realizes it was out of panic. Something in her had made her angry, and then she recognizes it was jealousy. Itsuki's words about taking care of Kisha had triggered her. She finally understands that her jealousy comes from not wanting to lose him. When she arrives home, she shuts the door behind her. Kisha is in the bath, thinking about cleaning the bathroom after Rui finishes her shower. Suddenly, Rui bursts in, wanting to talk right away. Startled, Kisha asks her to wait and close the door. She apologizes, turns her back to him, and admits she had felt jealous at the thought of him leaving her. She apologizes again, but gets no response, making her wonder if he even heard her. Frustrated, she barges in again, demanding a reply. Kisha, still shocked, just asks her to close the door once more. Later, after he changes, they sit together on the couch. He tells her he admires her ability to express her feelings and says he understands that her jealousy means she cares. Rui admits this emotion is new for her. Kisha recalls the fear he felt when he thought she might choose Itsuki, which makes him question whether any of their moments are real. Rui keeps apologizing. Then Kisha mentions he found a cheap place to live and that the real estate agent seems nice. This makes Rui uneasy, but he surprises her by asking if she'd like to come with him. Rui agrees and then goes to take a bath. As she walks away, letting her hair down, Kisha sits alone, questioning himself. Why has he been so against this fake marriage? Could it be because their feelings are real? He wonders if he should confess to Rui, even though they promised to divorce. The thought of breaking that promise overwhelms him. The next morning, as Kisha is getting ready to leave, Rui notices the bags under his eyes and asks why he looks so tired. What he really wants to say is, "Because I love you and want to marry you for real," but he doesn't. That day, he has plans to help Itsuki but can't tell Rui the truth. He knows it would make her jealous. Rui, sensing how down he is, thinks it's because he's pushing himself too hard to become independent and move out. Meanwhile, she herself begins to wonder, what if they don't get divorced and instead marry for real? But she fears doing so might only hurt Kisha.